one of the things I thought was really interesting in the hearing, I thought that people in the committee were most interested in a lot of the legal arguments about what was actually in the legislation and what the legislation actually did, which is very different from how it's been portrayed. And, you know, for instance, I think people were genuinely surprised to learn that the cost overrun guarantee is not in the legislation. The ticket tax, which a lot of people seem to have not heard of, but was one of their earlier selling points that they now, I think, dropped.
Kind of.
They say
Maybe.
no new taxes is a new selling point.
Right.
But the ticket tax was like a big part of the revenue projections, and I think like a really important thing for the deal, this surcharge. They say it's, quote, expected in the legislation, but if they've dropped it, it's weird to still have that in the legislation, so that's not in the legislation. And similarly, and I really wish, I think hopefully we can try and get General Treasurer to testify at one of these hearings. I think that'll be really important to get his legal analysis. But, you know, when I read out the part of the legislation, I think basically binds the state to pay Pawtucket's debt, which was, of course, a big issue because the governor said that was a deal breaker for her.
Right.
It really does seem like the state is compelled to pay Pawtucket's debt. And text of the legislation is pretty clear. So I thought that was interesting. And one of the interesting questions I have is how we respond to the way the hearing is structured. Because you can't go to another hearing like that. It's not worth anyone's time. You can't ask Rhode Islanders to show up, and I hate to tell people to not show up at things.
Well, we were out in the hallways where most of the business is really done at midnight, and there were a few folks there who were elderly, besides myself, and and you could tell the night had taken the toll on them.
It took a toll on me too.
I mean, but these folks, you know, these folks were there out of a genuine. There's a genuine concern to their presence. Not that we don't, but these are grassroots people who woke up that morning and said, "You know what? The hell with it. I'm going, and I'm going to make my point heard." And they were denied that opportunity because of this travesty.
Yeah, and honestly, you know, and Conley, I hate to do this. I had a rather heated discussion with him afterwards, or during the hearing, and he claimed that the anti-McCoy crowd, the tear it down crowd, were the principals in the deal, and so they deserve a right to speak when other people didn't. And I don't know. I was really shocked by it. It still sticks with me that it's just not how these things typically go. I just felt it, and he maintained that that's how he's going to operate all the hearings going forward. So it's just going to be 3 hours of pre-programmed testimony. It's not public testimony, and by the time the press has left,
Right.
and most people aren't really listening, it's not worth it for, you know, to ask people to come if it's just going to be a sham, and they aren't really going to go and do a serious vetting and a serious hearing. So I don't know how one's supposed to respond to that. The sort of total lack of desire to operate this in a real manner, because you can't ask people to come to a hearing like that. I wouldn't go to another hearing like that.